All right, let's prep for LAF Summer Camp. Welcome back to the
Great.
channel with me, Coach Jason. I'm the founder of Adaptive Movement, creator of Live Action Fitness, joined here today by Charles Mendelsohn. Charles, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so you're going to be a live action fitness tour guide, which is what we call the game master in the live action fitness role playing game. So, more commonly known as the dungeon master. So you'd be running the sessions and making sure everything runs smoothly, narrating and refereeing. And I actually look forward to being there and possibly being one of the players in the game. So thanks for hopping on today. And I wanted to start by asking you how you got started with D&D and role-playing games to begin with.
Yeah, sure. So I actually got started in my early 20s. One of my coworkers, her boyfriend at the time was playing Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 edition. So started there, started playing as a druid gnome. Got really into the campaign. It was super cool. Very just explore unknown territory type stuff. Um, and then I've been playing ever since.
Right on, right
Playing
on.
for about 9 to 10 years now.
Yeah, and that was one of my favorite editions of the game. I started right before that, but then 3.0 and then
Mhm.
3.5 rolled out, and that's when I really was getting into it. I still have some of my 3.5 edition D&D books actually,
Fair,
which
yeah.
I still like to reference once in a while. They started publishing so much stuff,
So much Yeah.
adding into the game there. New classes, new magic items, new spells. Prestige classes, all sorts
Mhm.
of really cool, fancy stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of
So,
versatility.
yeah. So you started out, you're playing 3.5
Mhm.
and having the adventures there. And then what about making that leap from player to dungeon master? Because it is a bit of a leap. It's a
Oh,
different ball
yeah.
game. So how did you do
Yeah.
that?
So that actually happened during COVID, where it was very hard to find a group. So I decided, the easiest way to find a group is to run it myself. So I started running games for my family at first, and then um, did a couple games with a couple coworkers. Um, Ended up running Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which was a very fun Dungeons and Dragons campaign,
Oh, I don't
very
know that.
whimsical and takes place in the Feywild. It was very fun.
Awesome.
Um, and yeah, and then after a couple nice fun one shots, I just got really into it. Started reading a bunch of adventure books. Um, and yeah, started just running games
Right,
for
right.
at first for friends, and then I started running for um, a program at work. And now just whoever wants to play a game, I'll run for them.
Excellent, right? And that's exactly what we need. So,
Mhm.
somebody's got to step up. Somebody's got to be the dungeon master or the
Of
game
course.
master, right? So there's a
Yeah.
need, and everything shut down. So I think you said it was about 2020,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Everything was shut
So,
down. No one was willing to join in together, so we just started playing online.
right.
Met some cool people from around the country. Even played with some people around the world, which was really cool.
Yeah, yeah, right on. So it's really just, stepping up to meet the need so that you can,
Exactly.
have more games going. And it's a lot of work behind the scenes,
Sure.
prepping and, organizing everything and then actually running the session itself, whether you're online or at the table. So good on you for, just stepping up to, help more of these games happen and especially for introducing new players, because that's
Mhm.
one of the things that we like to do, whether you're a kid or an adult or, any age. There are so many people out there who, maybe they've heard of D&D or role-playing games. They've gotten so popular. Like
Mhm.
sometimes they think it's a board game. That's another thing I find, they before they've
Yeah.
actually tried it. And it's like sort of a board game, but like not really a board game, but
Right.
it's like, it's not like you're not like way off, right? But it's
Mhm.
like kinda.
Four
But
games out
then
the board.
yeah, exactly. It's funny as I often will tell parents and new people that, it's like a video game without the video game.
Hmm.
That's the other comparison that I make, right? So, something like Zelda, it's been around forever
Hmm.
and that's a role-playing game, right? But it's
For
it's a
sure.
video game, you play the main guy and you run around, you get some, you want to get the master sword and, some new
Hmm.
power-ups and up your stats and
Yeah,
become powerful and, you're the hero, right? So that's really cool. You're now a dungeon master, you help more people get in the game so that they can be the hero, right?
exactly. Yeah.
So now one of the other cool things that we connected on when we first got introduced is movement, so I see you got the Moco shirt on,
Yeah. Rocking the
right?
Moco shirt.
Movement center.
Hmm.
Tell me about Moco.
Well, Moco is, first of all, it's awesome. It's a pediatric therapy clinic where we practice physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. And we're a movement-based facility. So all of our therapies, we base it through child-led play and movement, and we have very cool obstacle courses, which I'm happy to show off a little bit. Um, that I get to luckily build every month, which is very cool. And yeah, I mean, we have a very hands-on approach. We typically have a therapist and an aide working with the client, which is very cool. And a lot of what my job is when I'm in a session is just creating fun games and making the therapy as fun as possible.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
exactly the kind of thing I wish I could have done as a kid, and
yeah. Oh, me too.
yeah, that's like a whole nother, video right there about movement and
And
pediatric
the
therapy,
importance. Yeah.
right? Physical therapy, speech therapy, OT, occupational therapy, and I work closely with a lot of other therapists, just like what you're doing, and I usually use those clinics as they're great locations. They've got all the equipment that you need. There's training mats, there's yoga balls, there's some weights or some resistance bands, and
Hmm.
all sorts of stuff that you need when you're running these sessions and playing games and getting the kids involved. So it's amazing how you're using movement in those sessions, right? And some people
Yeah.
might not really understand, what that's about, what that would look like as far as, maybe you're doing a speech therapy session, one of
Hmm.
the clinicians there, one of the therapists, and it's so important to, like you said, child directed,
Yeah.
right? So you're seeing, well, what is this kid interested in doing? What do they want to play with? Maybe
Hmm.
they're interested in those yoga balls. They want to play a game with them. So you kind of go
Yeah.
with the flow. You're capturing their interest, but also, helping that kid meet their goals, as far as the therapy session itself goes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So
There,
it's
yeah,
fascinating.
endless things you can do with whatever they're interested in. It's very cool.
Exactly. Yeah. That's just your starting point, right?
Hmm.
Now, you're
Yeah.
following their lead and now, right, you're off to the races there. You could, get going whether you're playing like a board game or you're doing the obstacle course, or just doing some movement stuff together, but you've also got that connection. And I think it just helps everything flow. I find that myself, movement, it is I mean it's grounding, like
Grounds you. It's good for your mental health.
right.
It's regulating.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the benefits, it almost sounds too good to be true if you really start thinking
Yeah.
about it, and it's the same when you start combining movement with Dungeons and Dragons, and that's
Hmm.
really the basis of live action fitness. So we know how great Dungeons and Dragons is for kids and adults, for anybody, because you've got that social connection, you're collaborating, you're problem
Hmm.
solving, there's flexibility there as you got to go with the flow because surprises happen. There's the roll of
Hmm.
the dice and, surprises presented
Oh,
by the dungeon master, right? And so you're working on all these things together. And then once you get people moving, because they're going to have a lot of energy, right? Because it's so much fun. It's so
Yeah,
exciting.
it's
So,
so exciting. The adrenaline's
yeah.
running.
Yeah. Now you're not just like stuck sitting around, right? So that's fantastic. You've got people that, need to move, right? Especially we know kids need to
Especially
move,
kids.
right?
Yeah.
So, lastly, and who started Moco? I'm surprised more people don't do this type
So
of
with
training and
my,
model.
I know it's, I think it's popping up here and there. So this woman, Andrea Santman, who's my boss, she started Moko, must have been, I think, 10 years now, 10 years ago. Um, and it started with a very small team, and now we're totally blowing up. Um, and yeah, I mean, she's been running for the last 10 years. It's been really cool. Just how much like can go into a session and it doesn't even look like it's therapy.
Yeah,
Um,
there you go. That's well said. Exactly. Yeah. So
yeah,
the kids are doing therapy, but it doesn't feel like it. They're just
yeah, a
having
lot of
fun and
them,
moving around.
yeah, a lot of them don't even realize that this is a therapy clinic, which is
Right.
very, yeah,
Yeah. It's like
it
a
just
big
looks like
playground or something.
a fun gymnastics gym is what it looks like. It's
Right.
very,
Perfect. Perfect. So that's why, I thought when I met you, I'm like, this guy's exactly who we're looking for, right? We want to be, we're having fun adventures and we can get moving around. We want things to be a bit child directed and see what they're interested in, and that's a big part of Dungeons and
mhm.
Dragons, because the
Yeah,
players get to make their own choices, they
yeah,
get
they
some
get another
agency
story.
there, right?
Hmm.
So you just gotta go with the flow, right? And then,
Definitely, that's what it's all
it's
about. It's
fun.
all
Go with the
improv.
flow.
Great.
Yeah. So, I want to also just talk about summer camp here. So,
Really?
we're going to be doing 5 days in a row. All right.
Mhm.
And we've extended it here. So, we're going to be going from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. So, it's 5 hours here in total. All
Okay.
right. So, whether we're at the table and away from the table, that includes lunch breaks and,
Hmm.
little free time or, going out to the park, stuff like that. So it's going to be a blast and
Sounds great. Yeah.
going to have you there running the game. So I've been working on making a character here. So
Great.
using my own game mechanics and creating a character for me to play. So I think I'm probably going to be playing either, maybe a spy or some sort of scout type character, right? Mainly based around someone who's kind of sneaky and clever, like a rogue,
Okay.
right? And so we've had you on before to make your own character, and you
Hmm.
played in one of our one shots here, which was a ton of fun.
Oh yeah.
In
That's
fact, one of the other kids there who was trying it out for his first time, I think you know who I'm talking about. Where you guys met
hmm
each other in the beginning of the adventure. He said it was
Yeah.
one of the greatest days of his life.
That's
Okay, it
that's
was
great.
really special. Yeah. So, and he continued and just realized he was already, playing games in his imagination and now
Hmm.
discovers the magic. Like there's a whole structure and a campaign, and there's a way to do this,
Of
collaborating with a group of people. So, thank you for, helping
course. Yeah.
with that
That's
intro because
that's what it's all about.
he loves it. It's what it's all about.
Hmm.
So he's had that aha kind of discovery moment as far as what live action fitness is all about. And we
Hmm.
just want to help more people have that aha moment, that light
Of
bulb
course.
moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
So everybody creates their characters, and we have a really simple framework where you're starting with your archetype, and so you get to decide. I want to be maybe a powerful warrior, like a knight in shining armor or a barbarian, right? Or a rogue that's maybe who knows, maybe a sneaky, clever thief, or the smooth talker guy of the group, or a mage, right? Any type of magic user, which is something that you made, right? An
Yep.
illusionist, or, you could be a warlock, wizard, druid, more nature based magic. That's up to the player, right? So you kind of find your archetype at first, and then you just rearrange your stats in the order of your choice, right? So it's really simple, and the game is based on, a 1 through 5 rating scale. All right. So the stats are based on 1 through 5. The range, how far away can I shoot this fireball or an arrow based on, how far away is he? Like, oh, he's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's out of range. Oh, he's like level 5 range, so it's too far, right?
Hmm.
Or not. It depends on your character's abilities, right? So that's something I just want to present that as part of the framework because you'll be making these judgment calls. That's a big part of what you do, when you're running the sessions. So does
Hmm.
that part, make sense?
Yeah, yeah. I really decide like what level is challenges is between 1 through 5.
Yeah, exactly. How tough is it to climb that wall? Right? You're setting
Hmm.
the difficulty. Exactly. Exactly. And it's the same, so that way you're able to create stats for your monsters and other characters, NPCs. These are non-player characters, right? So us as the players, we create characters. Those are called player characters. And then you, Charles, you'll have non-player characters. You're playing all of those, all those characters
Oh
who
yeah,
are not us playing
I
with
can
you at
get
the table,
everybody else.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So the campaign here, I want to get into a little bit of the setting and your campaign. So we have our framework here. We are adventurers. We are agents of the Bard's College Adventure Academy.
Hmm.
And this campaign setting here, it's largely a homebrew world as far as stuff that we've discovered and things I've built as far as the adventures go. But we are in a world called Aronoff, and that is created by a guy named Matt Click. And so he's got his own YouTube channel under Matt Click. It's called A Fistful of Dice.
Very cool.
And also, when he was running one of these campaigns, he merged together with his players. They collaborated to create their own tabletop publishing group.
Oh, that's really
So
cool. That's
really
amazing.
cool. Exactly. So they publish these supplements and maps and campaign adventure books. Resources for people like you and me to use. So check out absolutetabletop.com. All right, Absolute Tabletop. So that's the publishing group. So you see the Aronoff is one of several worlds that they've got, and that's the one that we're going to be playing in. So now I want to ask about our adventure hook here. All right.
Hmm.
So as the dungeon master, if we're attending the Adventure Academy, what do you think? What kind of trouble are we getting into when it comes to summer camp with you, Charles?
So the hook would be the Adventurers Academy or the Bards Academy would get a letter from a group of lion folk that live out in the desert. They have their own little settlement, but they have had some running-ins with some Minotaur caravans that they would like to be inspected. Um, they have had some weird disappearances of some fellow lion folk, and they suspect that these Minotaurs are the culprits.
Interesting. Interesting. I like that.
And
Minotaur
a lot of
caravan.
mysteries will unfold once the players figure out what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. We don't want to spoil it,
Of
but we're
course,
just
yeah.
sort of establishing
Hmm.
the upfront hook here. See
Oh,
see what's going on. So these lion folk, right? The lion inn.
yeah. Hmm.
They're writing to us. They need some help,
Yep.
right? There's some trouble. And are they saying in this letter here? They say there's some missing people. Is that right?
Yes, they say some of their townsfolk have gone missing recently, and some of their caravans have been attacked by what they call bandits.
Yeah. Oh, that's some trouble here. We're definitely going to
Hmm.
have to look into that. Exactly. So perfect. So we know exactly who the right people are for the job. Got agents here at the Bard's College Adventure Academy. So that's fantastic. So they're going to be hired. President Bowen, he's the president and founder of the Bard's College, right? So he'll get a
Wonderful.
team of guys right on it, happy to help. And then, they can kind of unravel the mystery there. It gains some extra experience. Who knows? They might be fighting some monsters, looking for clues. Maybe
Mhm.
exploring the world a little bit,
Sure.
and that's fantastic. So I love that. And in fact, as we do this, so is there a letter? I wonder, as we kind of prep for it, you know, can we can we write out the letter,
I think so. Yeah, I think
right?
we can definitely write something out.
Yeah, let's write up the letter, and
Get some
then
handouts
we can
going.
kind of present that to one of the players and kind of see how they react at the table.
Yeah.
Uh, because also that's the other thing, is we're, D&D and role-playing games like this takes a lot of focus.
Hmm.
So I think that'll be great because then they might want to read it more than once, and really make reference to it, because otherwise sometimes you tell the player something and it's like doesn't register,
Yeah.
right? But it's like
And having something
they're
physical, I feel
clues.
like it adds to the immersion.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I love, yeah, a little bit of a prop or two goes such a long way. So I think that would be super cool. I have one of my kids who got like an amulet of protection from one of their missions. So I actually gave him this amulet, but he loves it, right? So it's
that's
like this
yeah,
is mine. And that kind of helps to make each character special.
for sure. Yeah.
They all have different items and something unique about them. So, as far as game mechanics go, I know you got to play, you have a little bit of experience, which helps.
Well, but
You
yeah.
got to be in the game. So, we'll start whenever you want, really. Normally, we roll initiative at the beginning of a combat encounter. All
Hmm.
right. So, it's up to you. If you want, you can call for an initiative roll whenever you need. And sometimes I do it early, I'll do it ahead of time. All right. So, it'll be up to you. But so we'll get an initiative roll. So for any new people out there, that's basically the turn taking order, right? So we want to establish that. That's a based on your rogue stats, all right? Because it's really about your situational awareness. Okay, so we do a little musical chairs. All right, we establish the turn taking order. And then we're going to physically get up and rearrange our seats around the table. And that way you can just go in a circle, right? So we'll start out with round one, of course. So this is where our game mechanics, in addition to the way your character is statted, will be a little bit different. It's not D&D, right? This is not 5th edition D&D. It's a little bit different. So you're going to be going around and around each you're going around in a circle, right? As we begin the
Hmm.
first round. So each player will get to either do a major action or a minor action or they pass. And basically, we're going to go around in a circle until everybody is ready to pass. And then we're going to reset all of our cards and reset and go to the next round. Okay. So that's where you could offer, there's a little bit of tactics involved, depending on the strategy the players are using, right? So maybe we want to be super aggressive and we want to attack first, ask questions later. It's a common play style,
For
right?
sure.
But
Sure.
that's definitely an option. Or, maybe you want to pass or do something minor. You want to use one of your spells or magic potions. Those are good examples of minor actions,
Hmm.
activating some magic item, putting up a shield of protection, or drinking one of your potions. That would be a minor action. Then we come around in the circle, get back to them, and then they're ready to take their major action, which might be an attack or using a magic spell or something. Right? So we go
Okay.
round and round. And then when we're ready, all right, everyone's all set. We've done what we want to do this round. We'll reset, begin round two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Fantastic.
So that's the core structure. Last little thing here is I know we're gonna hop off soon because
Hmm.
we've got sessions to run. We got to get these kids moving,
Oh yeah, for
So
sure.
lastly, they have money. All right. So that's one of the core mechanics here. So as they're moving around and training, they make a little bit of money. and they've got their bank account. They've got poker chips there at the table as a token of however much money they've got in their bank account. So they can spend some of their money and boost some of their rolls. And so you got to see this. So if I spend 1 gold, I can add an extra 1d4. So you get extra dice when you're rolling dice, maybe for an attack or anything special that you're doing, like a magic spell. Because the higher you get for your total, the better, right? Now, lastly, in addition to spending money, what I want you to think about here as the dungeon master, this will be important. You're looking at the scenario and you're going to make a judgment call for advantage, right? Advantage and disadvantage. Okay. So anytime somebody's got some leverage, maybe I'm making an attack, but I climbed up this tree and I'm going to like jump down and like drop kick you and startle you, right? Surprise, like a sneak attack. That'll be a big advantage, right? So you're going to be able to, you're going to judge how much of an advantage that is using the same 1 through 5 system. And then you're going to give them the extra dice accordingly, right? So maybe that's like 2 out of 5. That would be, you get an extra D6 on your attack. All right. So based on the scenario. So that's one of those things that's more fluid as far as a game mechanic goes. Not everything is going to be listed in full text, but you don't need it to be, right? Because you're there, you're the tour guide, and so you'll be making judgment calls, right? For who gets advantage and disadvantage. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
Right? Exactly. And then, right, it'll have us thinking, what's the best way for me to go about doing this thing that I want to do? Right? What can I do to put myself in an advantageous position? And that's one of those main things you're learning throughout the game, just like in real life. Maybe I don't rush, but maybe I do a little bit of prep work, right? Maybe I'm going to sharpen the axe before I start chopping down the tree.
For sure.
Right? Something like that. That'll give you a bit of an advantage. Cool?
Cool.
All right. So awesome. I know you got to run here. We got to get these kids moving, but
we'll talk soon.
Yeah, we'll talk soon, Charles. This was a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
Yeah, you too. Take care.